Hey, what's up? Was machst du? Look at this. Before I start, I just wanted to mention that Simchas Torah I sat with Chesky Melamed, the one who saved Lubavitch in 1994, and his brother Moshe. And after speaking to Moshe, I've come to a realization and a conclusion that everything I've said in the past 5 years was wrong. No questions to be asked about it. Okay. So this is about Tanya, an interesting point. A woman who was going to Chabad in Australia, Chabad classes on the Tanya. She noticed something. She's Jewish by ethnicity. Maybe she has to go through a process of giur, conversion, or confirmation, confirming the Judaism by a religious ceremony, also known as giur, but it's either less or more than that. It depends on the situation. So she's studying the Tanya, and she didn't really understand, and other people say it's offensive. They talk about the same thing, where it discusses that the Goyim have a animal soul and the Jews have a godly soul, nefesh elikis, nefesh Bahamis, or something like that. That's written, either the Alter Rebbe writes it or he quotes it, because mostly the Alter Rebbe is a malakit, the Balatanya of zalman of Liadi. He's a malakit, meaning he is really someone who codifies or collects things and puts them together. But nobody can really be someone who just collects things. Obviously, everybody is putting their unique point of view in. So really, what is it? Is it something that is it his own intellectual property or not? Is he responsible for what he's writing or not? And the answer is simple: that the Tanya is not here to offend modern sensibilities. Looking at it, well, what you mean? Because in reality, if we look at it, a lot of Christians or Gentiles or pagans or wherever you look at in history had complete belief in self-sacrifice and dedication, and they really had, if you want to call it, because the word godly soul is anyways a poetic thing, and the word soul itself is poetic, because what does it even mean? And what is a soul? So it's usually a poetic thing anyway. But the godly soul is definitely very much seen by Gentiles, and the lack of a godly soul is very much seen by lots of people who are considered Jewish. So what does it even mean? So I advised her on her question. I said, rather than look at the Tanya and say, oh, this makes sense, this doesn't, this is ridiculous, and many believers who are, especially Chabad, but a lot of Oilamisha, meaning the regular mainstream Orthodox, look at the Tanya as a book of guidance. So how do you think they would take to that? Or are they really believing in it? And if they do, how does that affect their psyche and their common sense? And how do they walk around with that? How do they reconcile that with the truth that's evident to them? So rather than look at the Tanya as a book that has unresolved problems, look at it as a very pure and wonderful piece of painting of the times, of how people lived in the shtetl at that time. It paints a very wonderful picture. Look at it as art, because that's really what it is. And art shows us, if it's historical art, it shows us a lot about the times. So if you look at the Balatanya's son, which Moshe Schneerson, who Rabbi Shneur Zalman's son converts to Christianity, which it may have been due to his mental challenges, or it may have been due to his truth conviction. Most people who changed religions were deeply, had deep issues in the head, more issues than Time magazine, as they say. But he's not the only one. Rabbeinu Gershom Moira Goyla of Ashkenaz, the one who instituted the most famously for monogamy in the Ashkenazi tradition, and it eventually took hold. Of course, thanks to modernity, it took hold into all streams of halacha. Believe that that monogamy is a must and not an option. Of course, the Sephardim may contest that, but pretty much today, Jews are mostly congregated around Israel and the United States, so that's what you have. So So looking at the Tanya, you see the challenges of the Balatanya and people finding Christianity to be attractive. Today you don't have that at all. You only have people have heard of something called Jews for Jesus, and then there are Messianic Jews, which are just a natural birth of people who are Judaizing, Jews who believe in Jesus, and they also believe in Judaism. That's just a natural birth. It's not an organization. But Jews for Jesus would be an organization, and this organization is not really reflecting people's beliefs. It's just someone's idea and a bunch of people working for free, volunteering, and they even have reports of abuses in this organization. It's based in, I think, Westwood, California, or maybe based in a donor in Texas. So today you don't have that concept of conversion to Christianity to be attractive by deep thinkers in Judaism. Very rare. So at the time, you're dealing with Alter Rebbe, dealing with the attractiveness of Christianity to Jews. So of course they would write something and they would try any shot they got. And one of that shots was that the Jew has something unique that the Gentile doesn't. And if you try to, switch your religion for something that you consider to be more true or more attractive or more religiously true, you're going to be missing something. As my father himself, Beryl Chaskelevich, who dealt with missionaries. I don't even know if this was a big deal, but the fall of the Soviet Union and glasnost during this period where religion was starting to enter into the Soviet Union, and lots of missionaries were going for Jews, and it was an opportunity for them because they didn't have many options, or they didn't really. A lot of them were not religious, but they had fulfilled lives. It's just that they just didn't have religion as part of their curriculum. So one of the best arguments my father would make, which wasn't really a philosophically true one, but it was a good one to get people. He would tell the young Russians who were considering to convert to Christianity based on the incentive they were given by the people incentivizing them, the missionaries from America. He said, do you know about Judaism enough to know that you're going to abandon something to trade it for something else? And the truth is, you're not abandoning anything, because if everything is a process of learning, you can always go back to Judaism and you can say, oh, well, I guess I converted to Christianity and that was just an experience like Bob Dylan did. And then you go back to Judaism. So it's really not like you're signing a deal and buying something really expensive and getting yourself into real trouble. Of course, for the religious and believing mind, it sounds like it, but even that doesn't make sense if they think about it for a moment. So that's what my father would say. But in reality, my father never had the actual proof. He just kind of got these boys thinking and coming to some classes. And I saw a video cassette recording of this, and it was pretty interesting, even though it was in Russian. One of my father's secretaries translated it to me, and I would sit there. I was only 10 years old, and I found it to be fascinating. The next interesting thing related to what the Tanya says is another letter by the previous Lubavitch Rebbe, Isaac Schneerson. And he writes a story about his father and about two young boys in the yard of the house arguing about the difference between a Jew and a Gentile. And so this was Zamke. There was a boy, Zamke, in 770. When I was there, Simchas Torah, he sat in the sukkah, and he read this letter to me because he wanted to bring that point to me. I'm guessing because he knows I'm married to what they call a non-Jew, or what science calls a Homo sapien. So Zamke is on a mission, and he reads this letter, and I turn to Zamke and I say, what about Samaritans? What about other tribes who are Jewish by the father, like the Karaites and things like that? And what about tribes that are Semitic but not Jewish? He doesn't know, and he doesn't care, and nothing changes. He just reads this crappy letter, poorly written. Definitely, you can tell it was fabricated. And it's about a guy, and even halachically, the letter is questionable, because it's a guy named Kutcher in Yiddish. He's fluent in Yiddish, and he's supposed to be a Gentile who was raised by Jews or raised within Jews, which doesn't really make sense. Either he was raised by the Jews, or he was raised by within the Jews, or side by side. He spoke a fluent Yiddish. And the story, the letter goes to show that the Jew says, who is a simple Jew. They're trying to show the juxtaposition of the simple Jew, kind of like the fascists would do with the simple German and the simple Jew, and they would do the propaganda, but not going to get that far. And he says, the one guy, I eat, drink to serve God, and the Gentile says, I eat and drink to enjoy and to just drink again and drink more. it's kind of nonsense, but